Okay, so this video is very specifically for Linda, although other people have mentioned an interest. I made this art journal page quite some time ago. This side not quite successful, but this page seems to have been quite a hit. And I'll be honest, I can't really remember how I made it. I got a rough idea. So for Linda, I'm going to try and recreate something very similar so that you can see the techniques and the colours and things like that, and hopefully this will help you out. Obviously I've already got this in my book. I don't want to use it again. This is one of these big A4 Diane Reevely mixed media type journal books. You can scale it down. The only thing I would say that if you're doing it in a smaller book, use a smaller stencil just to keep the scale right, and obviously a smaller photo. So in order to recreate this, I think I'll just do it on some watercolor paper, which I hopefully have some nearby. Here we go. I've just folded this bit in half. It's from Dial Around Me Aquafine Smooth Watercolor Paper, which is ideal for building your own journals, which is why I got it. I wanted to build my own, and you can actually use the hard bit on the back to make your own cover. Anyway, let me put this one away just now. Other things that you're going to need is obviously a focal picture. This is the one I used the first time, but I probably won't reuse it. This is an old postcard, one of Tim Holt's found relatives, are they called? So just an arrangement. This is my great aunt. I'm thinking I might quite like to use this time, or one of these beautiful art house whimsy. I don't know if the light is catching that and you can see them or not, but I absolutely love these. We shall see. But first of all, let's just move on. Old papers. I know people say they're using paper from vintage books, but honestly, a book that's about 10 years old has yellow pages. So just go into a charity shop and pick up an old copy of Jane Eyre or Shakespeare or something. And the stencil. The first time I think I used this one. And then obviously I'm going to have to go and look up the name of that. It's something to do with Briar or something. Wallpaper anyway. I don't actually know. But I'm going to maybe use a different stencil this time. Maybe this, because I haven't even opened it yet and I do love it so very much. This is called Folk Florals. So I think I'll use this one. I want to start, I'm just going to do the single page. I'm not going to do double page because basically it's the same technique on both. I want to start by thinking roughly where I want it to be flat. I'll open this again. You see there's vintage papers glued down here, and it doesn't look so great if they're glued down over too many bumps of the texture paste. So what I did, you won't probably be able to see, but in previous layers, be back here, I did some papers first, then I did the stenciling, and then I built up papers again so that those were more at the forefront. But the other papers gave me, well, a bit of a background as well and a general idea of where not to put the stencil. On this side, I actually used a bit of tissue paper that's got people on it. That's a Finnabar tissue paper. So, using some old scraps. Some of these are old receipts that were given to me by a really nice, kind girl called Faith. I think her and her mum found them in their attic. This is reproduction type ephemera. It's not authentic, but it looks good, and my friend Sarah gave me that. Then just ripped out of one of those cheap paperbacks, you know, you used to get, and some, like the Works and things like that. They used to sell really cheap books for like $1.99 and things. So this was a copy of Jane Eyre. Admittedly, this is quite an old book. Fortunes of Nigel. I want to say Sir Walter Scott, but I'd be lying if I said I could remember. Some sheet music from my mum's country dancing, an old Alice in Wonderland, just bits. This pad I've had lying around for absolutely years. I think Joanna Sheen. I think I got this probably about 14 years ago or something. So it really doesn't matter. You just want some bits of paper. I'm just going to use a flat brush and some soft matte gel for my glue, but you can use any white glue or decoupage glue or whatever. And I'm just going to get a bit of an idea of my central position. I want to start with the scraps because there's no point in putting good bits on. Probably do it straight, might be slightly nicer. Oh, an awful lot of these have had die cuts torn out of them. So basically, this just gives me the idea that I want to put my image slightly off center up and to the left. I had to think which was my right and which was my left. And I don't have to cover all that up because basically this is just a guide at the minute. And it will get covered up at later stages. And then let's see if I was putting on, obviously I'll cut away the white. You can use a proper cutter for this. I just don't want to drag it out right now. This was hopefully intended to be a shortish tutorial video just to give you a rough idea. I'm not going to be using this particular photo, but I do want something just to line up. So there you are. So you get the idea. This is roughly what the layout will be. So I don't have to glue any more. These are so nice. I don't have to glue any more bits on right now. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. So putting the glue and brush aside, we're going to do the stenciling. It's entirely up to you what you want to use as your texture paste. You can use, you know, like the white modelling paste or a 3D gloss gel. Any of the, you know, any of those will do. I've got a 3D matte gel here because it happened to be on the table. And I am going to open my nice new Finnabar stencil and the folk florals so that I can see what it looks like. Now, I am going to want my texture. I think very much here. In the last one, because it was a double spread, I had a sort of candlestick shape going down here. So it looks like it was a piece on the right, top right, and a piece on the bottom left. But I think I'll switch it up a little bit. Just the main part of this, I think, for you is going to be about getting the colour and the rusty look. And so, stencil. I'm going to use one of these Finnabar silicone brushes because I quite like how easy it is to put the paste through. Slight overlap. Don't do it too perfect. I don't want straight edges. You know, it doesn't have to come exactly straight. I've got lumps in my texture paste. Ooh, nice. And up here, a little bit. Don't know what I've been doing with that texture paste. Probably scraping bits off the lid, and then I probably shouldn't have because they were probably too dry. But it's nice, it's nice. Maybe a tiny bit. Just a tiny little hint of texture there. Okay, there we go. Now, I'm going to put you on pause because I want to get my texture paste off of this stencil ASAP, because once that hardens on there, it'll kind of make the stencil less precise, and I don't want that. So I'll be right back. Okay, I am back, and I'm desperately trying to keep the cat from coming and jumping on the table. Obviously, for the next step, we want our texture paste to dry. You can leave it till it's dry, walk away, do something else, but it's not really in my nature, so I'm going to do it with a heat gun. Okay, full disclosure, my cat is now eating the cable, and she may just at any point knock everything over and jump down onto this. Oh, wait a minute, there she goes. Right, hang on. Doot doot. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, cat dispatched. Should mean to turn at any point. This gel will go clear when it's dry, but it's touch dry, she says, hopefully, so I can plough on. Because most of the textured paste, modelling paste, 3D gel, stuff like that, have kind of a mildly glossy finish. Don't take to paper to paint very well, so I'm going to use some clear gesso over everything, so that when I start painting, the paint will take nicely onto the texture as well. I'm just doing little circular motions to try and make sure it gets in there to all the little nooks and crannies, because I don't want to push too hard because I haven't really taken the time to get it dry. Oh, look, a cat here, imagine. I'd rather do a couple of thin coats than one big thick coat. It just helps maintain the detail in our stenciling. Saves us from having any great big clumpy bits. Gesso does dry quite quickly, so you could leave it, but obviously as I'm recording and I want things to move along, I'll give it a quick waft with a heat gun. And before the second coat. And again, another quick coat of the clear gesso. This also prepares your paper for a lot of punishment with the mixed media. Obviously watercolour's quite good for using because, you know, it's meant to take a bit of water and paint, but we're going to be doing an awful lot on here, and we don't want some of it soaking in as watercolour would in watercolour paper. We want some of it staying at the top, and it also helps give everything a nice matte finish. If you've got anything, if you've been gluing things on and you've got a big glossy blob of glue that you don't like, a wee bit of clear gesso over the top and suddenly the glue marks are not as obvious. Okay, dry it. And for speed, that's going to be dry enough so that I can just show you some of the painting process. It's going to get quite wet, so I'm putting some of this kitchen roll down, otherwise it'll drip everywhere and it'll get, might as well protect that. It'll get on the underside, and if you were doing it in an art journal and you want something different on your next pages, you know, you're going to want to protect these. So it is what I would normally do if I was doing, see, if I was doing the next page from here, I would, you know, put all this in here, sometimes more than one layer, and that just keeps it clean. And this one I had to glue this page and this page together because I made such a mess of the page in between. So some weird pages actually. Anyway, protect your pages and get ready to catch your drips. Okay, this is starting to bend a little. I'm not sure it's dry, but it will do. I am going to be, no, there's no way you're going to really see that. I'm going to be using the avocado green. I've still got an old one, so I'll finish this one first. I am going to be using burnt sienna, and I am going to be using carmine. Probably be using some rust paste too, but we're going to get these bits done first. But you start with a nice coat of the avocado green. Let's put some in my palette. It kind of doesn't matter what kind of brush you use. I mean, a silicone brush does leave less marks, but you'll always see these stripes. I like to just give it a little spray, and it kind of helps the paint flow a little bit. I do want it quite green. We can add more green in the, you know, in future stages, but I want it quite green to start with. And don't worry, you'll go through a few kind of ugly stages before your piece feels decent. Now, if you hadn't put gesso on, that would have all just been absorbed. Here it's a bit darker, and I suspect that's because I kind of missed some parts with the gesso, but I don't mind. I actually quite like when it's kind of patchy. You'll know, especially Linda, who this is for, that whole vintagey distressed look. Anything too perfect just doesn't feel quite right for vintage and distressed. I'm going to give this a quick dry. If your pages are curling a bit too much, it's possibly because wet on one side and dry on the other. You can just give a very gentle spritz, and it just kind of helps even out what's going on at the back with the front. Okay, I'm going to do another wet coat of the green. It's more of a colour wash now. And because I haven't got the patience, because I want to get on with this, I'm just going to dab up some of that excess and not wait on any more drying time. But you wait on the drying time. And as I said before, I don't care how even or uneven it is. It's all part of the dress aged look. Liquid acrylics dry quite glossy, especially if you're using quite a lot of them. But don't worry about that. At the very end, I'll come back to it with the clear gesso and give it a matte finish. So we're going to start this vintagey sort of look now. And the first one I'll use is the burnt sienna. I've got a tiny wee drop left in this bottle. I want to use it up first, so I'll start with that. I am putting it on there, like that, and I'm using a spray bottle. I'm letting it trickle down. Same again here, just sort of put some on, spray it, let it find its own path. Move it about. Want some here, and kind of along the edge. Spray it, let it find its own path, and what will happen, oh, that must have been a drip, it will sort of make puddles where the deep parts of your stencil have puddles, and that's where all the brown goes, and the higher parts of your stencil will kind of try and remain green. So you're bringing out the detail. As I say, quite a wet kind of procedure. You're going to have to dry it in between each stage, otherwise you're going to end up with a bit of a mess. So it dries a lot lighter than when it first went on, so I want to give it another coat with the brown, another one that's concentrating on the textured parts, and then I'll probably give it another coat where it's just a wash over the whole thing, just to give everything a bit of an aged look. So back to my brown, burnt sienna. Put it on, give it a spray, put it on, give it a spray, and again put it on, give it a spray. And a dry. It takes a wee while to dry, admittedly, because we're using a lot of water. And you can tilt your page and move the paint around so you have a bit more control. Get some nice drips that way. But it's already starting to look nice and vintagey. And again, for speed, I'll just dab some of this up. Ordinarily, I would probably just keep drying until all the water disappears, but okay, let's have a look, see if I can show you. Ignoring the fact that it's quite shiny, because we're going to deal with that. Okay. Let's see, I kind of wanted to give it a, this is a really watered down version of the brown. I'm just painting over everything so that it all gets that same vintagey feel. Should really use a bigger brush, but this already had the brown on it. There, okay. Gonna move on to the carmine next. So pretty much going to be doing the same thing, only we're going to be using the carmine, which is a lovely browny red colour, and actually once it's on it looks quite rusty. Not when it first, when it's on thickly, it just looks like another kind of dark brown, you know. But once you give it a spray, beautiful and rusty. So, same idea. Same idea here. Just gonna go along the top and tilt so that it's running down the page as if the rust has been dripping. Encourage a little bit of it down to here. Tilt, tilt. Okay. To do more drying. And again, for the sake of speed, I'm just gonna dab excess. Let me have a look. So that's a kind of vibe. It's off-putting to me when I see it so shiny when I'm going for a vintage look. Now, whilst you don't have to at this point give it another coat of clear gesso, I'm going to, because it helps me get a better idea of where we're at and how much more we're going to have to add in the way of paint and then build up the inks, etc. Okay, so clear gesso again. Not quite so clear because some of that obviously wasn't quite dry. Don't mind though. It will add to the vintage look. I'm going to try and get those strokes right across so that you don't see any, you know, when you stop and then start you get a line, so I just want to try and okay. Right. Okay, some of the bits where the gesso is quite thick, clear gesso looks white until it's dry. So you've got this sort of whitish look, but as that dries through thoroughly, that'll kind of disappear, which in a way is a shame because I think it actually looks quite nice. So we're starting to get there. Let me see. This is the kind of look. This area, I build up some collage on. I use some watered down white gesso to get a sort of a sense of light coming through, and then a wee bit more collage. So we'll kind of leave that right till the end. Here, around the edges, it's very, very dark. And I actually just used Distress ink and Distress oxides and the blending tool for this part. Or you can use any black ink. Archival might be quite good if, you know, with it being sort of mixed media, if it's going to get touched or anything. So just using blending tool, and I'll probably use quite an old one because I don't like to ruin my ink ones on mixed media things. And an old black, this is a VersaFine actually. I'm just gonna kind of darken up the edges on and then quickly off. There. Oh, too much off. Overdid the off. Just very gently going around the outside edges to get a nice dark aged look. Okay, now I want to add rust paste, because I add rust paste to most stuff. Let me see, it's the red one. I'm going to use some that I have in a jar that I took to class, because I'd like to get it used up. This is the same deal as with the brown paint and the carmine paint, only I'm keeping to the top edges like that, a little sort of L shape, but it's the same with the water, letting it run down, and I don't want it to come too far into the main. And it looks very orangey there, but the rust paste is another one of the things that changes as it dries. It gets darker. I'm gonna just add a wee drop here, just enough to get the sense of some rust in places. I don't need it everywhere in the same way that I wanted the brown and the green. I just want touches. I don't know if I want to drip down there or not. I'm kind of wishing I'd left that now. Let's see if I can encourage it. Okay. And again, we're gonna want to dry that. Very messy business. I think there are people who can do all this with making less mess than me. I'm just a messy crafter. And again, for the sake of speed, I'm just going to mop off the excess. But, you know, do this to your own taste. Decide if it's too much, too little, whatever. You mop up when you're ready to mop up. I don't know how well the video shows this up. That's the basics of the background. The only other thing I did with the background, I don't know if it shows up on the camera, this little gently rubbed on some gold wax and some blue patina. There's the gold. I still have some waxes in the old round tubs. That's how long they last me. I think I'll use this aged brass one just to get it used up. Now, tiny wee drop on my finger. I don't want, and I'm just gently rubbing over the texture, because it brings out the pattern again. Really hardly any on your finger, because you don't want it going in to the background at all. You just want it to sort of highlight some of the pattern. And the same thing, just clean my finger a little bit. Same thing with the blue patina, or you can use the green patina, also works really well. Just gives a wee bit of that bit of colour, but a bit of an aged look at the same time. Just in patches. There. Well, I don't suppose it really makes sense that there's a blue patina at the same time as there's rust. It makes no sense because it's on paper, but still. Let's see if I can show you. Right. We shall move on to the next step, and that is collaging on some old papers. So we'll go back to those. Some old papers. I don't want the ones that have had die cuts torn out of them. Kind of like this letter. Actually, that's kind of cool as well. So I shall start I kind of I'll just use these to show you the kind of shape that I want my papers to go in. Is that's not the direction I'll put them in, but I kind of want this feeling of a staggered crisscross. You see there's one coming down here and there's one coming out the bottom, but it's slightly over there. There's actually 2 or 3, some coming out this way, so you get a bit of a cross, but it's not straight down. They're staggered, as well as some other bits and bobs in there as well. So that's the general look I'll be going for. So I'm going back to using my soft matte gel or white glue, whichever. I don't want to use too much because I'm going to be doing this thing collage and decollage. Now you're collaging all the papers on, and then you sort of pull some of them back off to get an extra aged look. And if you glue them overly enthusiastically, it's kind of hard to get them back off from each other. So I don't want it too straight. Let's put one here. Let's put some glue. Let's get one doing that thing. Let's go up. Actually, why not mimic that same bit with the same kind of paper? A little bit of a mirrored reflection. Let me think about what size photos are. Roughly. Just grab any photo. Yeah, that'll be okay. I can bring that one down a little. And same as that photo's there, I might actually just use that photo. It's green. It's got green in it. Now I'm going to want several layers because there's no point in decollaging if you have nothing underneath it to sort of tear off, you know. This old book is really delicate. And I probably need a bit of the yellow or paper coming out here to make it balanced. That might do. I really like the two of the words that are standing out here. Picture and torn, visible, slanting. It's all quite relevant to the piece, and that was accidental anyway. I would normally pile quite a lot of paper on, but for what we're doing, I think, you know, as a sort of rough tutorial, you're getting the idea there. Get these papers out of the way. It can't function if the desk gets too out of order. So I want to dry it again. I don't suppose I've really put enough paper on to successfully show you decollaging, but I'll try anyway. I just take little bits and pull, just pull, pull, but I'm not going to throw away this very ancient paper. It doesn't kind of like it too much. I'm not going to throw away all of these, oh, that's a bit too much. Okay, so what we've got is a bunch of old papers that seem to be useless now, but I'm actually, I want to glue these back on in another random sort of fashion. So let me see. Let's put this one up here. Don't worry about the white because that'll all go away. And this that was from here, I'm going to put that over here now. I'll put this piece over here. The bit that says torn picture. Anything else? I think that bit can go on there. I think that, oh, it's upside down, that will not do, will it? Let's put it there. And maybe this wee bit can go on here. Now, it's sort of, in my opinion, gives that look of, you know, those old billboard poster walls where there's been posters and then they've been torn away and new posters have gone up and then they've been torn away. So I feel like it's got that sort of raggedy, ancient old feel. I want to put gesso on it again. Admittedly, there are a lot of layers involved. Clear gesso. Okay, final go with the burnt sienna. Very watery version this time, very watery. I'm just gonna give it a good spray over. I don't want it so that my pages get a wee bit of vintage vibe. Keep it watery, which is why you use the gesso. I think this is definitely getting to the end of the bottle. Nice vintagey look. I'm not even too bothered about letting all of that dry. I'm just going to dab some of it off. I just wanted to make sure that paper got a bit dry. Now I'll dry it. So mostly, that's how the background was done. I've given it a bit of a shine again by adding that burnt sienna, so you know it can get another coat of clear gesso. Now I just have to really make up my mind. Well, you know, I do like that wee photo. What photo I'm going to use? So I don't really want to use the picture I used the last time. Well, there's my larger photo of my Aunt Mima. I could use this. Let's cut this down. Now, photos. These I sent away to the Photo Lab place. Free prints, I think, actually, that app where you get so many prints for free each month. But even though I select the matte option, they've still got a bit of a sheen, so, which I don't like. Wait, she goes okay, doesn't she? So you can either use Tim Holtz Distress glaze or the equivalent watercolor wax glazes that you can get over it. Just gently apply it with your finger like that. Or you can use clear gesso. I've just noticed that I would like to find some of that gold back on there again, so I am just going to use a touch of this Vinabars Vintage Gold wax. Don't want much. And just bring back some of that. I'm trying to decide if I need more carmine on mine. I'm not sure if that feels like it's got that rusty enough appeal. Just a wee bit. Going to try and be a little bit careful though. I don't necessarily want the carmine on the paper, so I shall put it on, spray, but not necessarily lift it and move it around. Dry it. after putting that clean bit of white paper down. Okay, so the photo. I will put the photo on a bit of card or something. I'll use this just slightly smaller than the photo itself. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'll do now. I don't like the white lines on the photo, so I am going to use blending tool. I'm just going to use the same one that I used the black. I'm using frayed burlap on there. I am just going to dab along the edge. Just to take that white line away. Because the photo's a little bit glossy, it's quite easy to clean up. I don't mind a bit of it going over, it gives a wee bit of a distressed look. There we go. So I will use a bubble glue. A bit of glue. Excuse my head. Okay, so it's very close to being nearly done. I'm going to put some clear gesso, a very light touch of clear gesso on this. I want to use a dry brush for it because too much water and you water down the gesso and it just kind of wrinkles up here. That's it. That's all I'm doing with it. I'll just use up the extra on there. We'll let it dry. Now, let's look at the original and see what else we need. I have got flowers, self-explanatory, and a wee bit of text. These are Tim Holtz. There we go. Embrace the journey, because it's very much a journey. I never know when it's finished or when it's not finished. Doing this again. Look, trying to darken my edges a little. It's hard to give a lesson on something that kind of happens organically. You've got the basics. You decide if you need more sepia or more rust or more carmine. You know, it's entirely up to you. Now, these chippies, if you're putting it inside an art journal, they're a little bit too thick. So just, it's up to you how much you take away. You can peel off at different levels the card. I think though that might be enough. I'll glue that back. It is a bit too white and new looking, so I will go back to my frayed burlap distress oxide and I'll just go over. I'm just going to go over it. bit better, and I will edge it with the darker one. Face the Journey. So, embrace the journey, Linda. I hope this is of been of use. What have I got? I got some. Nah. I'm not really very good with flowers. I have to admit, I'm not. Nah. I'm going to leave the flowers up. You can put your flowers on. I'm more likely to go and look for some cogs or something. But I'll do that off screen. Obviously, I've already got a page like this in my journal, so it doesn't matter so much for me. I am just going to glue this on. Get the glue out. And basically that's it. Obviously you'll have to put your flowers in, or whatever else you're deciding to put on there. And I'm aware it's looking really... I'm rummaging for flowers, Linda. Now, I very rarely have flowers the colour, so just use your acrylic paints, especially if you've got like the liquid acrylics, which are translucent, and paint them the colour that you want yours to be. I'm just feeling mine is terribly unfinished without a grip, please. It doesn't matter anyway. So you get the gist, Linda. This is it. This is the page, more or less. What we had in the big book. Let me just open to the right page. It's a bit darker, less light, but the steps were the same. I just never know what I'm doing, so I've obviously put less paint on the book part, or I've forgotten to do the white gesso again, but equally nice, I think. Okay, Linda, I really hope you make it to Scotland sometime, and then we can have an in-person extremely disorganised class, much like this extremely disorganised class. And thank you to anybody else who decided to watch, and I hope you also found it helpful. Okay, bye. Before I go, I forgot to say, there are splatters on this one. I used this Sparks Dragon Eye paint for the splatters. It's just a very watered down version. A wee drop of, I'll use the lid, not ideal because I like my lids to be clean, but I'll use the lid and just a little bit of the paint, a little squish of water, mix, mix, mix. I do not want it on photo, so I'll just cover that. Tap, tap, tap. This goes on kind of milky, but it dries all golden twinkly. That was a bit stupid. go. So, sorry I missed that bit out. I forgot. The one thing I will say about when you're embellishing, if you're putting your picture sort of top center as opposed to bang center, when you're doing your embellishments, try and balance it in the same way. You're going to want more coming down either here or here, and the same stuff but smaller amounts at the top, just to keep it in a nice balance. You want to draw the eye down through the picture. Okay, right, I'm really going this time.